Bless you, mate. Thank you. Nice to know you're all there.
Meine Damen und Herren, das Organisationskomitee des Deutschen Fußballbundes heißt Sie zur Eröffnungsfeier der 10. Fußball-Weltmeisterschaft in der Bundesrepublik Deutschland sehr herzlich willkommen. In dieser Feier wollen wir Ihnen die 16 Teilnehmerländer an den Finalspielen mit ihrer Folklore vorstellen. In bunter Reihenfolge, unabhängig von jedem Alphabet, frei von jeder Wertung. Wir hoffen, dass wir Sie im Stadion und die Fernsehzuschauer in aller Welt mit diesem musikalischen Auftakt fröhlich und heiter auf das große Ereignis einstimmen können. Aus Jugoslawien begrüßen wir herzlich die Volkstanzgruppe.
And here in the Weltstadion in Frankfurt, West Germany, the 10th World Cup begins with a spectacular opening. All round this stadium, 16 globes in the shape of footballs, each of which conceals at the moment an entertainment group from each of the 16 nations competing in the finals. We've just seen the first of these globes open, and they reveal the Ensemble Gradimir from Yugoslavia, who will entertain with traditional songs and dances, and this pattern will be repeated in no particular order. They've not been arranged in alphabetical order or in any particular order of merit. The Germans have been at great pains to avoid any suggestion of regimentation, and so through the afternoon we shall work through the 16 nations who will contribute to the entertainment. And at 5 o'clock, of course, Brazil, the champions, will open the competition proper with a match against Yugoslavia, which you can see on independent television, live and in full. But these dancers now come from a group founded in Belgrade in 1945 to preserve the national folk traditions and dances, and in particular of their native Serbia. Nearly 30 years of experience behind them, in which time they've given over 2,000 performances all over Europe and played to more than 2 million spectators, but of course never to a bigger audience than they have today. these World Cup finals to be watched on television by more than 800 million people around the world. A grey, chilly afternoon in Frankfurt. We've seen very little sun here this week, and not the most colourful of settings for this opening, but a most picturesque stadium surrounded by woodland, source of some concern to the German security authorities, who have been absolutely meticulously thorough in their preparations. They are a good old Yugoslavian knees up, which you might encounter on a night out in Belgrade. Applause for the dancers of the Gradamir ensemble representing Yugoslavia, the last of the 16 nations to qualify for this World Cup tournament, and they did so indeed with a 1-0 victory over Spain in a playoff in this stadium in February. And these Yugoslavian dancers are in fact on the far side of the stadium from us, immediately underneath the stand in which the press sit and in which the VIPs are sitting, among them the German President, Dr. Heinemann. And applause for the Gradamir ensemble from Belgrade. And now music from something rather special in the way of military bands, the big band of the Bundeswehr, conducted by Günther Norris.
Und nun Folklore des Gastgebers der 10.
So now we move on to the
Fußball-Weltmeisterschaft.
second of the
Von der
competing
Mosel
nations.
grüßt sie
Nobody
die
in
Winzer,
the
Tanz- und
stadium here
Trachtengruppe
knows
aus
which of
Villingen.
these remaining 15 footballs will open next, but there is the one down to our left, revealing the representatives of the host country, West Germany, a country with a tradition in the World Cup final second only to Brazil's, winners in 54, runners-up to England in 66, twice in third place. And today they're represented by another facet of German life which is famous throughout the world. This is the Winziger folk and dance group from Winningen in the Moselle Valley. And they, of course, represent the tradition of winemaking. Some of the most famous white wines in the world come from the Moselle. And this particular group are guardians of a tradition more than 500 years old. It's at Winningen that West Germany's oldest folk festival is held. Dates back to the Middle Ages, when the celebrations were held only in years when the wine harvest was good. Hardly surprising that the dancers are finding this a bit slippery. There was a lot of rain during the night and the early morning, and that's quite a shiny surface, and it can't be very easy for them. Little hose that the men carry would be used for keeping the soil clear between the vines. And there, a fine shot from the airship showing you the whole stadium packed today, but 1 in 60 of the 60,000 spectators here will be a policeman. This opening ceremony, and indeed the whole games, providing the most rigid security exercise in the history of sport. Besides the policemen in the crowd, there are more than 850 civilian security guards. 2 police helicopters are on patrol overhead. Civilian air traffic around the ground has been banned. Dancers from Winningen are internationally famous. They've made more than 50 overseas trips, but I suppose their most notable performance before this was when they appeared at the 1936 Olympic Games in Berlin. Trachten and Tanzgruppe from Winningen in the Moselle, representatives of West Germany. And our third group of entertainers will come next from Uruguay, in terms of population, the smallest of the 16 nations to qualify for the finals this year, with fewer than 3 million inhabitants. But a splendid football history, winners of the first World Cup tournament in 1930 and again in 1950. Marking their presence in the finals this year for the 7th time are the Orchestra Tipica of Maestro Donato Ricciardi. That wasn't something from The Great Gatsby you saw in the corner of that picture. They are two famous dancers from Montevideo, Niagara Trujillo and Julio Macio, whom we'll see in a moment. And there they are now, beginning the most famous music from Rio, the tango. Well, next we're going to have a dance called a candombe, in which the drummer plays an important part, and in which two young ladies are going to feel, I suspect, very cold. Believe me, it's not very warm here in this Waldstadion in Frankfurt this afternoon. The third member of the group, incidentally, is in a harlequin costume. But you really wouldn't fancy that on a cold afternoon in Frankfurt. And this, of course, only the first of several contributions to come from South America this afternoon, and I think we can rely on them as they take their place in the parade to provide a good deal of colour on an otherwise bland afternoon. Montevideo, the Orchestra Tipica del Maestro Donato Ricciardi. And next we'll have the representatives of Sweden, introduced now by the big band of the Bundeswehr. Sweden, who themselves staged one of the most successful and entertaining World Cup final tournaments in 1958, and indeed themselves reached the final when they were beaten by Brazil and the then 17-year-old wonder boy Pelé. And here are their representatives in the opening ceremony, the family four from Stockholm, who are in fact the singers in this group. It's an American choreographer, Herman Howell, has choreographed the dancing for them based on elements from Swedish folk dances, and the dancers themselves have been brought together especially for this occasion. The accordion player there in the centre, Peppan, is a former forestry worker who's become one of Sweden's best-loved folk artists. And now the singers, the family four, a group who've been together for 10 years, not unknown in the British Isles. They represented Sweden in the Eurovision Festival in Dublin in 1971. 2 years ago they were in Edinburgh. Beautiful harmonies from the family four from Stockholm. And now the dancers again. I must say, looking at some of these beautiful girls, I can't think it'll do the Swedish tourist trade any harm. So the family four and singers and dancers complete their contribution from Sweden, and now we move back to South America, indeed to the most southerly country in the world, to Chile, another of the former hosts. They staged the finals in 1962 when they came third. And I suspect now they'll be well up the entertainment league with a medley of songs and dances of Chile by a group from Santiago.
Ihre Lieder sprechen von der Liebe. Ihr Nationaltanz, die Quaker, von der Liebe und der Eroberung.
Like the opening petals of a flower, another of the globes reveals the dancers and singers from Chile. The red, white and green flag that you saw are reminiscent of Mexico. Some more very lovely girls here. For the benefit of the ladies who want to see if there are any handsome South American gentlemen, they've taken off their hats and we shall get one or two close-ups of them later. Traditional Chilean music is something of a mixture. It derives originally from the American Indians who first settled in the country, and then there are influences also from the Spaniards who conquered later. These are all songs in praise of the Chilean homeland or songs of love.
Cuando canto a la muchacha que quiero, guitarra mía, yo prefiero encantes y alegres mi corazón.
With that kind of passion, you wouldn't want to back against Chile winning the World Cup.
Allá va, con ella.
songs and dances from Santiago representing Chile.
Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong.
And now the Bundeswehr big band takes over again to introduce us with some familiar strains to a country represented in the finals for the first time, Australia. And umbrellas going up, an indication that the showers, which seem to visit us virtually every afternoon at about this time, are unfortunately back with us again. Back with us also, Mulga Bill's bicycle band.
Herzlich willkommen.
This group spent 4 years travelling around Australia in their own bus, and they produce a music which shows the influence of various nationalities who've made their home in Australia, but particularly of British immigrants. It's kind of Australian hillbilly music. On the left, a very individual instrument made from the tops of beer cans on a broomstick. There it is. That isn't in fact Mulga Bill playing it. Mulga Bill is a legendary figure from early Australian history who's supposed to have swapped his horse for a push bike. Breath control to play that flute after dancing around beforehand is no mean feat.
We started from the road when the sheds had all cut out. We had whips and whips of rhino and we made the bush about. So we shouldered down the tools and we made for Sydney town with a 3-spot check between us that wanted knocking down. So we trapped the lazy Harrys up the road to get the guy. The road to get the guy, not by Master Moon of Ride. Yes, we trapped the lazy Harrys on the road to get the guy. Well, we crossed the Murrumbidgee near the Yanko in a week. We passed the Walner Ranger and we crossed the Burning Creek. But we never stopped at Wagga with Sydney in our eye. And we trapped the lazy Harrys on the road to get the guy. Yes, we trapped the lazy Harrys on the road to get the guy. The road to get the guy, not by mountain food of ride. Yes, we trapped the lazy Harrys on the road to get the guy. Well, we chucked out them and swagged up and we walked into the bar. We called for rum and raspberry and a shilling each cigar. And the girl that served the poison, she winked at Bill and I. So we camped at Lazy Harry's on the road to get the guy. Yes, we camped at Lazy Harry's on the road to get the guy. The road to get the guy, not by miles of food of ride. Yes, we camped at Lazy Harry's on the road to get the guy.
Well, I don't know how this is going down in Earl's Court, but it seems to be well appreciated here in Frankfurt.
I've seen a lot of girls been poisoned, drunk a lot of beer, and met with some of old me lads as never be mighty queer. But from beer and knock you sideways and girls to make you cry, you should camp at Lazy Harry's on the road to get the guy. You should camp at Lazy Harry's on the road to get the guy. The road to get the guy, not by miles and food of ride. You should camp at Lazy Harry's on the road to get the guy. The winter spree was over and our chick was all knocked down. So we shouldered down the children, we turned our backs on town. And the girls they stood and on that, so we sadly waved goodbye. And we tramped from Lousy Harry's on the road to get the guy. Yes, we tramped from Lousy Harry's on the road to get the guy. The road to get the guy.
Mulga Bill's bicycle band, and one can't help feeling that the Australian footballers who played 11 tough qualifying games to get here will find more profit from their experience in Korea, where the temperature was below zero, than from their match in Jakarta, where it was above 100 degrees. But we move on now to another of the first-timers in the finals, and just as much of an unknown quantity as Australia, Zaire, represented by the Ensemble Pende from the Bandundu province. And here promises to be one of the sensations of this ceremony, the Zaire dancers. "20 of them, 16 men and 4 women. The oldest member of this group is 64 and the youngest 18. Won't attempt to distinguish one from another. I don't think it's going to be particularly easy distinguishing between the Zaire footballers. I don't know what effect the Zaire footballers will have on their opponents, but I suspect that this lot might frighten a few. The lead dancer, incidentally, is a former student of politics and business management. A bit like Zaire wombles. so the World Cup brings together all continents and all cultures. Those were the representatives of Zaire. We'll leave you now for a few moments and then return to meet some singers and dancers from Bulgaria.
Den reichen Folkloreschatz Bulgariens bewahrt das Ensemble Pirin. Viel Vergnügen mit unseren Gästen aus Sofia.
And here in the Waldstadion in Frankfurt, the World Cup opening ceremony continues with the Ensemble Pirin from Sofia, representing Bulgaria. A group that was founded in 1954 to preserve a rich tradition of folk music, costume and legend. Dances that speak very much of summer. In fact, at the moment, the summer break in the Bulgarian football season. They've just reached the halfway mark in their season. They're here for the fourth time in succession in the World Cup finals, but they've yet to win a match at this stage. But it could well be that they're on a winner here. Some of the umbrellas have gone down around the stadium, incidentally. We are under cover here, although looking round, I suspect it is still raining. And indeed, the sky around doesn't look very much lighter. The Ensemble Pirin from Sofia in Bulgaria. And this introductory music will tell you that we are now moving on to Scotland, who carry, of course, British hopes in these World Cup finals. They've been in the finals twice before, but like Bulgaria, they've never won a match at this stage, only one draw in 5 games.
Wir begrüßen nun unsere Gäste aus Schottland. Die
And now from
Glasgow
Scotland,
Police
the
Pipe
City of Glasgow Police Pipe Band. On the far side, underneath the VIP seats in the stand. Drum major is George Seymour. This is a band which had its origins as a military band in Govan more than 90 years ago. And now the pipes under Pipe Major John McClellan join in. The German audience is always appreciative of a pipe band. They've had a good deal of experience of them, of course, with British Highland regiments which have been stationed here in West Germany. And of course the doodle sack, not unknown as an instrument in Germany itself. I imagine there will be folks back home who will recognise some of these faces, may indeed find them familiar faces from the Glasgow streets, because all these musicians also are expected to undertake their normal police duties. Well, if Scotland's footballers equip themselves as well as their musicians, they'll certainly be popular here in Germany. So we're now just over halfway through this opening ceremony, and the 10th representatives we shall see come from East Germany, a country who've never before reached the World Cup finals, but now come with a team which has a splendid record in Europe over the past few years. Sport, an area in which the East Germans have sought to make their mark in the world, and have done so with great success with their rowers, their amateur boxers and their track and field athletes. And today East Germany seeks to entertain and probably to impress as well by marrying two cultures, pop music and classical ballet. The dancers are members are for these performers. The music, incidentally, which is being provided by Frank Scherbel's backing group, the Uwe Sikora combo, sounding just as good here in the stadium as it is to you at home. There are 36 loudspeakers stationed around the outside of the running track. who have a very big date ahead of them on Saturday week. East German footballers, that is, who meet then West Germany in Hamburg. One of the 3 sellout occasions so far, this opening ceremony and the closing match, the World Cup final being the other 2. But we're now moving on to Haiti. Like Australia, East Germany and Zaire, a country with no previous experience of the World Cup finals. A country of only 5 million people with only 40 football clubs, including a first division of 8 teams and only 750 registered players, all of them amateurs. They topped a qualifying group of 6 in a tournament played in Port-au-Prince, and it's from there that these songs and dances of Haiti now come. This bright splash of colour is in fact one of the most meticulously researched contributions to this opening ceremony. The director of the performance has even brought in an ethnologist as a technical advisor. The Haitian tradition draws on both African and French origins. The dances are a mixture of religious and secular. This dance is called the Congo, and it celebrates love and beauty. Singers, incidentally, are 2 sisters, Fedia and Nelisa Laguerre. Happy music from blatantly happy people. songs and dances from Haiti. We still have 5 more nations to entertain you, including one which I suspect is going to be an absolute showstopper. We'll be back again in a few moments with some songs and dances from Holland.
Der niederländische Fußballverband hat das internationale Folkloristisch-Dance-Theater aus Amsterdam als Repräsentanten seines Landes für die Eröffnungsfeier der 10. Fußball-Weltmeisterschaft ausgewählt.
No need to tell you, I'm sure, that back here in the Waldstadion in Frankfurt, we're being by dancers from Holland. In fact, the International Folklore Dance Theatre Group from Amsterdam. Professional dancers, group founded in 1961, who've been on many tours all around Europe. I imagine it's true that wherever they go in Europe, they find these days that people want to know not only about their folk tradition, but also about their football tradition. Holland now famous as the homeland of Johan Cruyff and two of the best club sides that Europe has seen in recent years, Ajax of Amsterdam and Feyenoord of Rotterdam. Will they now perhaps produce a national side to match those? So a warm round of applause for the dancers from Holland. And we go back now to South America, to Argentina. This is the musical cue for the nation who will be the next hosts of the World Cup finals in 1978. They alone at this moment can be sure of not having to play through a qualifying group next time. This year, to reach the finals for the sixth time, they came top of a group including Paraguay and Bolivia. Today, characteristic Argentinian music and dancing comes from the Ensemble Ariel Ramirez with Jaime Torres from Buenos Aires. This is a group of artists brought together especially for this occasion. And that instrument, in fact, is a charanga, played by Jaime Torres, one of the most renowned practitioners of this instrument. Singer is Samba Kipilla, said to be the new voice of Latin America. I must say that's brightened the afternoon. Can't help feeling that if this were a beauty competition, it wouldn't be easy to pick the winners. German flags, of course, a great touch that endears them to the audience in the Waldstadion. That then was Argentina. Next is Italy, fancied by many as winners this time, largely on the strength of their marvellously organised defence. But even that is no more precisely drilled than the group we're about to see now. Italy's representatives come from Florence. They are the Sbandieratori. And I think this will need very few words from me. 22 flag wavers and musicians from Florence. This is provoking a wave of flags from all round the stadium, but none of them with the skill and dexterity of this man. If you think that's easy, just consider the weight on the end of the flag. Remember too that it's still pouring with rain. Medieval costumes and a tradition centuries old. And from here on, it starts to get more spectacular. Watch for the change of hands. now comes the grand finale, which really is something to see. Just consider the timing that's involved in this. Well, they had a slight disaster this afternoon after an impeccable rehearsal yesterday, but that's the way of life. But a brilliant display by the Sbandieratori from Florence. Now come Poland, conquerors in their qualifying group in the World Cup of both England and Wales, returning now to Germany as Olympic champions, the title they won in Munich 2 years ago, and indeed with many of the same players. The Marila Rodowicz National Dance Group will represent Poland in this entertainment, and this as colourful a display as we shall see all afternoon. They are in fact members of the National Ballet of the Warsaw Theatre, dancing now the mazurka, later the Krakowiak. Now come the Polish musicians wearing magnificent peacock headdresses. This promises to be one of the characters of this entertainment. And now comes singer Marila Rodowicz with another song specially composed for the occasion. This one called Fußball, Fußball spielt heute die Welt. Today the whole world plays football. Could that be in the background the original maypole? I can hardly imagine a more charming and peaceful rustic scene. But while these singers and dancers are the focus of almost all eyes here in the stadium. Two solitary figures on the roof of the stand immediately facing us are a reminder of the tension which surrounds this tournament and this stadium. Police dragnet has combed the surrounding woodland over a 5-mile radius from the stadium, allegedly looking for SAM missiles. And that complete area has been declared out of bounds to the public. All swimming pools, tennis courts, golf courses and other sports facilities, and that's what this area largely comprises, have all been closed. But mercifully, all goes on here happily and peacefully. Maurilo Rodovic and the national dance group from Warsaw. And so, finally, the rhythm of Brazil, the champions. Winners in 3 of the last 4 finals. The only country to have taken part in the final stages of all 10 World Cup competitions. It can't be easy to recreate Copacabana Beach on an artificial running track under damp grey skies. But there is always sunshine in the music and the extrovert nature of these ever-welcome visitors. So now, enjoy the Dance Theatre Brasiliana from Rio de Janeiro. Emerging, I may say, from inside that globe where they've been confined for just about an hour and a half. Very much protection there against the weather. I must say I can't help wondering what Paddy Crerand and Derek Dugan in the World Cup studio are thinking of all this. And I imagine it's being appreciated in much the same way wherever it's seen all around the world. And of course one can't help thinking that all this vitality and exuberance and the suppleness and the instinctive sense of rhythm is not unconnected also with Brazil's success on the football field. If you think that's easy, just don't try it with the best china. So, undaunted by torrential rain, the cheerful entertainers from the dance theatre Brasiliana bring to an end 90 minutes of music, song and dance from the 16 competing countries in the World Cup final. And they provide now a marvellous array of colour, just that one empty area there